Yeah, so I was watching this guy on YouTube called his name is Santos Bonacci. He has a what's it called? He has like a not a theory, but and I don't know if he coined the term, but syncretism, which has to do with astrology and whatever else he says it has to do with. And I was watching something of his the other day, one of his new ones, and he mentioned that the sun is a portal and souls come through there. Now, 2 years ago, I had a mental breakdown. And when I have these, because I smoke marijuana and don't have medication, so I go loopy. But a lot of what comes through during this time is just crazy talk and me connecting things that are weird. But I also get new information about certain things. And one of the information that I got, because I've always thought for ages, for many years, that the sun, there's no coincidence that helium is, that hydrogen is the lightest element, and so it's the most simplest element, and it's what makes suns up, which give life. It's like the number one gives life. And then I sort of thought, what's on the other side of the element hydrogen? But I think it must have been just one day it just hit me that, oh, fuck, the sun is a portal. Because I'd come up with, because I've got a story, and I hope Santos watches this. I've got a story where I've come up with it maybe to help me through. I've been writing it though for years and years and years, and just in my mind. But in the last sort of 5 years, that's where most of it has come out. And it's called the balancer, whereas I'm the balancer, you see. And what does a balancer do? A balancer just is here to observe. Is here to observe and have their long frequency, which is your soul, have your long frequency be changed by the experiences that you go through, that the balancer goes through. And the balancer does essentially nothing. Yeah, and their soul frequency gets changed. Then what happens is when they die, they gather up other souls that have been bad according to the balancer. And see, the balancer's pure. Is sort of more pure than just about anyone else on the planet, even though everyone's a balancer. But there's, because 2 comes after 1, 3 comes after 2, there's a hierarchy. There is only one real, the number one balancer, right? And his or her job is to take, or to be a he, his job is to take, because women are, there's something wrong with them, honestly. They're more cold-hearted than men. They have the ability to just be, anyway. So he takes these souls that he's either been wrongly done by them, or it's who he's come across throughout his travels as a human, just on the TV or whatever, like an Epstein or a George Bush, even for 9/11, like, and whoever set that up. He'll take a pope or two, because they're just evil fucks. Like the Catholic Church is the devil, basically. Yeah, and his long frequency changes. See, your long frequency can change. It changes from what happens on the other end of the cosmos as well. It registers everything. But of course, it registers where you're at the most. So it needs to register everything to get its perspective, if you like, and to cross section that when it goes back to source, that is the truth. In a sense, source can know. So the balancer can get closer to source than anybody else on the planet because he's the most pure. And he gathers these souls up and he takes them to source or God. And and then they are judged, if you like. And God works out what's gone wrong because it looks at their long frequency and it compares it to a notion I've coined being the Big Bang timeline, where the Big Bang timeline, the Big Bang happened the way it happened, which has made everything in the spot that it is in now. Everything's expanded from the Big Bang. So from the peripherals of the Big Bang, that explosion, the energy quotient or however you want to look at it, that those peripherals have set in motion everything that's in existence after it. So everything that's in its place now is in its place because of how the Big Bang went off. And it could even come down to us. We might have even no free will. But we've got much less free will than what we're led to believe. I'm sure of that. Because we also make decisions to affect outcomes out there for other people. So how much free will there may be no free will. You may have even I think we die on the day we're going to die, and that's that. And that's set. It's all, and this I believe is repeating because the universe expands and then it's got to retract. It has to come back in. I believe it expands and retracts and it goes backwards in time on its retraction. And then it goes through that, so it goes through that cycle, then it goes back to the singularity of the Big Bang, and then it repeats itself. But each time it does it, it's a tiny bit different. And it keeps repeating itself and repeating itself and repeating itself. Because God is trying to understand itself. And it does this through physicality. And the Big Bang timeline. And now, why I mentioned that, I've got to get back on the track. And so souls so in my story I'm the balancer, right? And I come up with that I had travelled through the suns to get here. Right, I'd travelled through many millions of suns from where I was to get to here on Earth because nefarious forces, because basically I'm the catalyst for judgment. The balance is the catalyst for judgment. And he and he brings, what he does is he brings, so I came through all these suns to get here, and because nefarious forces were trying to stop me because, I facilitate judgment, and they don't want that. Nobody wants the judgment to happen, for God to judge. So I take souls, certain souls, the worst of the worst souls, right? I get to take. The balancer, the number one balancer, gets to take because he can handle them. He puts them, they die, and see, we travel through suns, and at the moment, because we're at the precession of the equinoxes, we're at the great years is finished, or we're on the cusp of it finishing, if it hasn't finished already. And so, because of that, since 1979, the day that I've been born, the solar system, so the sun, has not allowed souls to come in or out because karma needs to be counted. Everything needs to stay in its place. So karma for this region of space needs to be counted and it divvied out. And for that to happen the most precise way, nothing's allowed in or out of the solar system. I got that from David Wilcock and his Corey Good. They had some thing about the solar system being... They didn't say stuff came through suns. I'm sure I came up with that. And yeah, and so I take them back and they have their long frequency, their soul, read by Source, and then Source then checks the master plan, which is the Big Bang timeline, but it checks the soul frequency's master plan and overlaps that of the Big Bang timeline, because the Big Bang timeline is the way shit's supposed to go down, but because maybe there is a little bit of free will, a tiny bit, like 0.001% of the whole of the universe, which can change. Like, say a planet's going to be in the spot that it was always going to be put, like Earth, right? But the people on it have the ability to change the outcomes of what's supposed to happen. And so Source looks at the master plans of, like, the evil ones, the ones who want to fuck it up, because the ones who are on good don't want to fuck it up. So the nefarious underworld, black hat sort of forces, reptilian motherfuckers, just the negatives, they get read and then they get punished, and then their soul frequency gets, what do I call it, gets shaved, which means they have to regress because the fact that there are numbers, most likely there's numbers in, and the ether is attached to physicality. There is a portion of gravity within the ether as well as time, but a slower time, a different time. Sorry, this is deep what I have to talk about. And I just lose my mind every now and again. Because I start thinking about something else. I start trying to bring something else in, and then and they get checked, their master plan, and then they see how much that soul, Source sees how much that soul has gone off the Big Bang timeline, because the universe has worked it all out beforehand, or whatever's ruling the universe, whatever's made the universe, because there's probably multiple multiverses. There's probably universes all next, and they're all expanding and retracting. Yeah, and souls at the moment are not allowed in or out of our solar system, and maybe until my death. So we could just say that the precession of the equinox is happening now, because this is the pinnacle. My generation is the pinnacle generation. We sort of had everything the easiest. There was World War One and Two sort of finished. The souls that were born in my generation are far more open than my mum. My mum's and the kids now are maybe becoming closed because they're just on their, they're not thinking in the same wavelengths that we've traditionally thought in, like, because we used to do stuff, heaps of different stuff, where they just sit at home and, you know, just, they're ultra lazy. So my generation was the pinnacle generation. So it makes sense that the precession of the equinox is finishing then, the great year is finishing now. I'll just have to write it that way in the story, because I think they say the precession of the equinox finishes later, but this could be my first reincarnation back, because another thing is, when I was asked by a couple of friends some years ago, I was telling them about EUNM, Earth Under New Management, about this story that I'm writing, because that's when I first come up with the name. I didn't know what the story was when I come up with the name, but it's been unfolding as time goes on. And they asked me, do I think I've been here before? And my answer straight away was yes, but a very, very long time ago. So I haven't been here for ages, and I might be reincarnating another few lives to get this mission done. And maybe that's when the precession of the equinox, because this could be the start of the cusp of it. Maybe I'll write that this is the cusp of it, and I've had to come in to lock the solar system, and then for another 100 years or so, 150 years, the solar system's locked because karma needs to be counted. And its souls come in and out of the suns, and that's a way of getting from A to B from different places. So through the ether, if you like, suns are maybe connecting the ether, but also, see, we are maybe in other, our souls are housed or are at various points throughout their life. They're in different parts of the galaxy, of the universe. But some souls can pass through suns willy-nilly, other souls are stuck where they are. And think about our soul. They say it weighs something, the 88 grams or 28 grams or whatever it is. They've weighed people after they've died, and when their soul leaves, that's the 28 grams that they are missing. There's a song by Hilltop Hoods, I think, about that. And because, see, what happens is souls are floating around. They float around celestial objects within space, whether it be asteroids, physical stuff that has gravity, because everything has gravity to a degree if it's got mass, I'm fairly sure. And because we weigh something, then we attract, gravity keeps us sort of here. So now we're in our body, and gravity keeps our body low, but it keeps it in our body, sort of. But then when you die, you float around your planet, right? And you make up the ether that souls and spirits make, the long frequencies make up the ether around their physicality where they are. And and then, so when their job's done for that area, like they've passed enough karma stuff or whatever, or for whatever reason they've chosen to be around Earth, because there's the law of sovereignty, which dictates that we choose who we are. We accept who we're going to be and what's going to happen to us overall, and we accept it. And and so I just wanted to make this because Santos Bonacci, hopefully he watches it one day, and I just want to let him know that Santos, that I come up with by myself, that the sun's a portal, and that spirits come in and out of there, souls come in and out from other parts of the universe, depending on their job or where their karma takes them, or just they move because they're allowed to, or whatever the reason may be. And so I think you're spot on with that, Santos. To tell you the truth, you're a good man, buddy. You're a good fucking man. You're a bit out there when you were running amok with the pedophiles and whatever, cancelling down your YouTube channels. It was a bit hard to watch because I thought you were mentally unstable, but I think you did it on purpose from what you said. I think you're completely sane now, but I apologise for thinking otherwise, but you did make it sort of look like that. But you're a gentleman and a scholar, and I'm the balancer. Whether I've concocted it to help me deal with certain things that have happened to me in life, or of recent with my family, my sibling family, or that it's information that comes through that can't be disproven, so it could be true. Yeah. So there it is. Anyway, I've got to wait till 22. No, make this 21. No, I've got to wait for a little bit. Anything else I can say? Sun is a portal. Make no mistake. It brings us here without a rake. I've got to go now, but that's okay, because we're gonna finish this fucking thing anyway. Now I need to get to 22:21, which is coming up very soon. I know the last bit's a bit boring, but fuck yous, I say, fuck yous. I got no teeth, see?